So 3, 2, 1. Welcome, teens,
Welcome
to another
back to another video.
Woo! Another lesson here. This is still on relationships. It's our series, but it's relationships with your siblings. And I know all of you really wanted to know about how you should treat your siblings. I think all of you know. You just don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
Because
right.
I don't want to hear it either. But it's a relationship you're gonna have from now until you die or they die. So it could be 70 years. It could be 80 years.
It's true.
It could be 20.
I wish I had a youth pastor growing up who would have. I mean, I know your parents tell you, love your siblings, but I wish I would have had youth pastors that trained me, or youth pastor's wife, like the biblical way to treat your siblings.
Yeah, it's hard. It's not easy.
It is.
You know?
Which gives me the first question here. Why doesn't the Bible have a specific passage of dealing with siblings? What do you think? And then we'll start into the verse.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's so different.
It's-
Yeah?
it's- I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe
I mean,
Jesus is like, there's no
I think
hope.
it does. I think that
I feel
I
like
think it does have a passage.
I don't know. Yeah, let's ask.
Yeah.
Oh,
What
okay.
passage do you think? Yeah.
I think Matthew 22:36 through 40, and it's a
Yeah.
verse that says, "Love thy neighbor as thyself."
Yeah,
And when
and-
it's saying neighbor, it doesn't mean like your next door neighbor by your house. It could mean that, but it means those who are in closest proximity to you.
Yeah. And the Bible also says, if you say you love me but you hate your brother,
True. Then you're a liar.
Then you're a liar.
Well, it's talking about your brother and sister in Christ, but yeah.
well, yeah, but no, it's talking about your brother.
I actually have that verse.
You have that verse?
I have that
That's
verse.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to share.
good.
I feel like even though it may seem brother and sister in Christ, I feel like the Bible implies like, treat others. I feel like even more so we should treat our siblings better than
Yeah.
Your own
Everybody
flesh and blood.
Yeah. That's true, Willow. I never seen a specific dealing with siblings. Like there's husbands, husbands love your wives, wives respect your husbands, servants obey your masters, children obey your parents. But then there's no brother treat your sister right, sister treat your brother right.
Don't eat all your brother's snacks.
Yeah, all that stuff. It's not there. It's not there. And that's
But
interesting
can I
to
read
me.
the passage?
Yeah, go ahead, honey.
Yeah, okay. So it's Matthew 22:36 through 40, and it says, "Master, which is the great commandment in the law?" Jesus' disciple asked him. Jesus said unto him, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets." But, I mean, point being, your neighbor, who's closer to you in your life growing up as a teenager, if you have siblings, than your sibling that you probably shared a room with. I shared a room with my sister my whole life.
I
True.
shared a room as well. And I feel like who you really are is who you are with
Yes,
your
it's
siblings.
true.
Okay, so if you're mean all the time, you're a mean person.
I shared
you know?
a couch bed with my brother. There wasn't enough
yeah.
Because
room
you
in
were
the
so
house.
nice to
Tough.
get you gave up your room for your sister,
No,
right?
my
Oh.
dad said your sister's getting her own room. You're sleeping in the couch.
Yeah, you gave up your room for
All
your
right,
sister.
I didn't give it up. It was
Your
given
you
for
were
me.
honoring your
You're a
father.
volunteer.
I was voluntold to give my room up. All right, so you guys ready to get into this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I chose the verse Ephesians 4:25 through 32. Ephesians 4, teens, if you have your Bible, Ephesians 4:25 through 32. I chose these verses because it's telling us how to deal with other people. And obviously, your brothers and your sisters are other people, and hopefully they're other Christians, right? They're Christians that live with you. And if they're not, this still applies. But if they're Christian, you should treat Christians or neighbors like this. And it doesn't matter if he's your brother or if he's your next door neighbor or if he's your friend at school. This is how you should treat people. And that obviously bleeds into your family life. So the Bible says, "Wherefore putting away lying, speak every man truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another. Be ye angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath." So the first thing, don't lie to them. Second thing, when you're angry, make sure you deal with that before the sun goes down or before the day is over. Neither give place to the devil, right? Because you don't want that anger to fester in your heart. "Let him that stole steal no more, but rather let him labor, work in his hands, that the thing which is good, that he may have to give to him that needeth." So don't steal from your brothers, give them something. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the edifying, that may minister grace unto the hearers. So when you speak to your brothers and your sisters, it needs to be edifying. It needs to be something that they need. And it's so difficult, right? And grieve not the Holy Spirit of God, whereby ye are sealed unto the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice, and be ye kind one to another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. Now,
That's a lot.
that's a lot, but I'm pretty sure we don't have to go through every piece, because I think you understand. Don't steal. Be kind and give something. If somebody hurts you, forgive. Right? If you're gonna say something mean, you shouldn't, because it's not good for the edifying of your brother or your actual sister. Don't speak evilly. Don't get angry with them. Don't have wrath. Don't have bitterness. All that stuff. Be tenderhearted. Be kind. I think that's one of the verses parents use too when you're dealing with kids, with your kids, right? What does the Bible say? Be ye kind. Was that kind to your sister? No, it wasn't. Be nice, right? So now you guys forgiveness, right? That's, I think, as parents, we do that with our kids. You know, you got to be kind. You got to forgive. All these things. I believe that this passage helps any brother or any sister deal with your brother and sister correctly, because it's how a Christian should act.
Right. It's like practice in your own home with the outside world.
Correct. And at some point, like you said, your brothers and your sisters will leave the house, and you will no longer live with them.
Was it recording when I said that?
I'm pretty sure it was recording.
Oops.
Yeah.
I love
But-
my sister and my brother.
But as soon as they leave the house, your relationship changes from living with them to actually being an adult and them being your neighbor,
Your friend.
And if you treat them evil your whole life for 18 years, 17 years, the only thing you're going to remember when you're an adult is how bad they treated you, how about you treated them.
Right.
And
It's true.
it's
Yeah.
not a good thing. You want to have, when you're old, well, when I mean old, like 20, but when you're older, you want to have a friend in your brothers and your sisters. You don't want to have fights with your brothers and your sisters. Right. And the way you treat them as a teenager, as a young, even as a kid, it will help you in your future relationship with them to actually have a good relationship, and for them to trust you with counsel and other things.
Right. Can I add something
Yes.
to that? It's part of the first question, because you did say the Bible doesn't specifically say, like, treat your sister this way, but it does have a lot of brother and sister or sister and sister relationships. Like the very first one, Cain and Abel.
Yeah.
You know, Jacob and Esau, Rachel and Leah, Mary and Martha.
Which all of them, except Mary and Martha, had bad relationships with brothers and sisters.
Which is to my point, like, God gave you your siblings so that you can practice how to treat people in a Christian way. And a lot of times, if you set a pattern of treating your siblings in a wrong way, you'll grow up and you'll just have this relationship where you just treat each other like you hate each other. And you may think it's not a big deal now, but that's going to carry on into your adult life, just like it did with all these people. Like, we're not the exception. And I feel like starting early is better.
For sure. I agree. Now, let's start this time with stories. Okay, can you tell us a story of a fight that you and your sister had? Just one. Just choose one. That's all. You can't get skipped this time.
It's just, I don't know. They get too real.
We'll call Amy.
It's
We'll
too
ask her.
real.
Okay,
Not now,
Well, okay,
but when
so-
you were kids.
well,
When
Say
Rated
that
B
again?
for violence.
Tell us a story of a fight you and your sibling had. You and your sister.
oh, okay.
When
Okay.
you were like teenagers, probably.
So there was no solution to it.
Correct. It's just like a fight.
It's just a fight.
It's just a story for us to get entertained.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which we should explain that we all have siblings and
Yeah, we all
like,
have siblings.
You know.
Well,
Are you
Alright.
the oldest or
I've
the
re-
youngest?
I'm the oldest.
Okay, good.
Okay.
And you only have one sister.
I only have one sister. I was
And
called-
did your relationship with her was really good when you were growing up, or did you always have fights?
No, actually, me and Amy were best friends.
That's
We,
good.
we rarely had fights, honestly.
Aw, that's rare.
Rare.
You see?
Like
Well-
very
That's
rare.
cute.
Well. So what's the one rare fight that you remember?
I don't remember the reason why. I just remember that, and I'm sorry, I was in the flesh. I was a teenager, but I remember pushing her, but into somewhere soft. I don't know if it was the bed or the couch or something. I pushed her because I didn't want to hit her, because I was just angry, and I wanted to hit something, but of course I didn't want to ever hit my sister, so I just pushed her, and then she came out at me, and she actually hit me, like she was throwing punches and everything, and she bit me in my stomach.
That's great.
That's how bad it was, and then that was kind of the end of it, and
Good.
then. Couple minutes later,
You surrendered.
Yeah, a couple minutes later, we calmed down, we started laughing, and we're fine.
Sorry for biting you.
Yeah, that's what happens. How about Rachel? You have any stories of you and your sister mainly? Probably your brothers too, but
So I'm the oldest of 4.
Mhm.
My sister and I are only a year apart.
that's a your
It's
part.
me and my sister. I'm
Okay.
counting here.
Sorry.
It's me and my sister. So it was like us 2, and then I have my 2 younger brothers.
Mhm.
They're like 20. Then I don't know. Right now they're in the young 20s. So it was always just me and my sister. My brothers are always younger than us. And me and my sister, we fought like cat and dogs. When I was reading these questions, I was just like smiling to myself. I'm like, I don't remember any stories specifically. I sort of remember one. We didn't get along at all in high school.
Before you go, didn't you have a duct tape in the room in the middle
So
of the
we
room?
shared a room our whole lives, and we're like day and night opposite, my sister and I, and we didn't get along at all. And right down the middle of the room, we had duct tape. So we had 2 twin beds, and it was my side and her side. Mine was very organized. Hers was very unorganized. She would get mad at me for organizing her side of the room, because then she would say she couldn't find anything because I cleaned the
I
room.
feel her pain.
Yeah. You know how that is, right?
I know how it
I
is.
put your
know.
glass away in the
Yeah.
sink before you're done drinking.
Where
your
it's
drink.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
I can find it.
No, I was drinking and I was like, where did my glass go? It's in the sink. It's
And you
getting
left
clean.
it. It needed to be washed. Anyways, the one that sort of came to mind, I don't remember all the details, but I do remember my junior year of high school. I had a license, so I had to drive my sister to school every day. I was a junior and she was a sophomore. I either had 0 period and she didn't have 0 period, or I had first period and she didn't have first period. But point being, I had to be there early and she had to go with me, but she didn't have a class, so she wasn't worried about being late. And she would make me late like every day. And I got detention because my sister could care less that I was late, and she always made me late, and I had to wait for her. And I remember I'd like never had detention in my life. And I get detention because not because of anything I did, but because my sister made me late multiple times. And then I remember being mad and telling her I had detention, and she, like, the way she just acted was like she was almost like secretly pleased, like, sorry.
You should be proud of yourself.
Like, not my problem. I was so mad at her, and my parents, like, I don't know, they didn't do anything. They just like go to detention, and I'm like, but that is not fair. It's not my fault, like, that I'm late. I just remember being so angry at her.
Now
But
you
the good
probably
news
would've
is we
left
get
her,
along
right?
now.
Now
There
you
were
would've-
several days I left her.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I left
That's
her.
impressive. I didn't think you would do that.
I did.
Wow.
That was probably after I got detention.
Yeah. That's good. Miss Priscilla, what kind of story do you have for
Well,
us?
I try to repress all my stories from my memory because
Yeah.
I was abused, okay? I am the youngest.
You're the baby.
I was the baby of the family, and I feel like my sister and my brother are closer in age than I am. So they used to gang up on me.
Yeah.
Because supposedly I would snitch on them when I was younger. I don't remember, I don't remember that.
sounds
I mean,
good.
they were doing something they weren't supposed to.
Exactly.
Makes
So.
sense.
I don't know. I can't remember that. They probably deserved it anyway.
I'm sure they
But I do remember, like, just like my sister getting mad at me because I would like wear her clothes, which now she goes into my closet and wears my
did.
clothes.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah, it happens.
Weird girls do that.
Listen, my sister hated when I gave her hugs and kisses.
Yeah.
And then when she came back from college, she wanted hugs and kisses, and I used to push her away.
You're like, get off of me.
My dad used to tell her when she did that to me,
Yeah.
she used to say, one day you're going to want your brother to give you a kiss and a hug, and he's not going to give it to you.
Yeah.
And she's like, nah, that's not true. And then
Yeah.
it came true. So anyway, sorry, I
Aw.
interrupted you.
Yeah, well, I lost my train of thought. I can't remember.
You were always picked on. You're
Yeah,
the
I
the
was. I mean,
youngest.
and it was bad things. Like, they used to, like, lock me in the room with the lights off at night and make me, like, scream because I was so scared.
mean.
Or, like, just stuff like that, And so they did this one time. I was so mad at them because I still remember this, and I was in kindergarten. And I wasn't proud of this. Okay, I cheated on my spelling test.
In kindergarten.
And my
Wow.
parents had to sign my test, right? And my sister is like going through my backpack, and she finds the test, and she's like, "Oh, you have to show this to mom." And I'm like, "No, don't show mom." And she goes running down the stairs, and she's like, "Mom, look what I have."
For
And
snitching
she
on them
showed
all the
her
time.
my test.
Snitcher.
I'm
Snitch.
like, a sibling should have
I would
each
have
other's
signed it. I would have
back.
signed it for you.
You would've
Snitches
signed
get
I would've
stitches.
I think
That's
I
what
think that's
happens.
probably what I was trying to do, get my sister to sign my test for me or something. But yeah, and then my brother, like, it used to be me getting mad at him because, like, you ever like have leftovers from someplace
Mhm.
and they're sitting in your fridge, and all day you're like thinking, when I get home, I'm gonna eat the rest of my food. And it's usually in
He
my
ate it,
case
yeah.
getting home and finding my, leftovers in the trash because my brother ate them.
Yeah.
And I'm
That's
just
so
like
mean.
so angry. But I feel like it has taught me a lot about life, a lot of forgiveness. I wasn't the best sister either, okay, growing up. So I'm sure I've done things to them that they remember.
Yeah.
But it teaches you a lot about life.
Yeah.
It's true. It's like living in a dorm.
I
Right.
remember.
I'm
yeah.
tough now. I'm tougher.
Good.
Yeah.
I remember in Mexico, elementary school, my brother and I going back home, walking home, because that's what we had to do. It was like a mile from our house. And we're walking back, and for some reason, he got me upset, and he started running. And I was like, you are not running away from me. So I grabbed my foot, and I kicked his foot, like, boom, right, on purpose, so he would trip. So he hit himself on his other foot, and he just went flying. And backpacks, Mexico, you don't have lockers. So you have, 30 pounds of books in the back of your, So he's running with his backpack, and it'll go boom, and he goes flying right in the face, bah, on the ground. Oh, it was so great. I feel so bad after that, but it was pretty funny.
That reminds me of one thing that my brother did do to me, which I think entered me into, like, I accept you, like, you're part of our group, was because this one time I always tried to, like, work my way into getting into, like, my brother and my sister. Like, I just wanted to be
Of course,
around
yeah.
them because I was the younger one. So there was this time where we were wrestling, and I would always wrestle, like, with my siblings, especially with my brother. And it got a little heated, and there was a frozen water bottle on the counter, and he
Ooh.
threw the frozen water bottle, and it hit me in the eye, and I got a black eye. And he was like, "Don't tell Mom." He's like, "Don't tell her, please." And so I was like, you know what? I won't tell her. That was the one time that I was like, I'll just, make up some story. And after that, I think I went into the group, and I was like,
You're
the
one of
cool
the
one.
boys.
And then I was the
Initiated
favorite
into-
sibling. I was like
Did
my
you say one of the
brother's.
boys?
I was my brother's favorite sibling, and then I was my sister's favorite sibling.
That's good.
So
That's good.
I had to work my way into the good graces of
Yeah.
them.
Okay, here's another question. This is the bad thing, right? The stories that we remember. Looking back at your life, do you wish you had done better with your siblings? Let's start with you, Rachel.
I was not the best sibling in the world. I don't know anything specific. I wish I would, like, you tripping your brother, right? That's like, to me, growing up, that was normal, to be mean to your brothers and sisters, but nice to your friends. To me, that was just like, that's what you do.
Yeah.
You're mean to your brothers and sisters, but you're nice to your friends. But if that is the way that you are, if you are mean to your brothers and sisters at home, but you're nice to your friends, you are a bad Christian. you
That's
you
right.
are an
That's
immature,
just
bad
true.
Christian. It's very true. You are directly disobeying what the Bible says. Love your neighbor as yourself, your brother and sister. It doesn't mean you're going to be perfect, but if you're not doing your best to love your brothers and sisters, but you're being kind to your friends, you're being disobedient to the Bible. So I wish I would have been much kinder. I mean, my sister lives less than a mile from my house now, and we're like best friends, right? If I tell Lisa, I'm going to my sister's real quick, I'll be right back. No, I'm just dropping off a bag of clothes, and I'm there for like an hour.
No.
We're just talking. But I mean, we get along great now. But I wish I had memories full of loving on my brothers. I mean, I was the oldest. I should have led the way, set an example for them, and loved them. But I probably wasn't the best.
How
You
about
can
you?
ask them. They probably have lots of stories.
How are you, Miss Priscilla? What do you wish you had done better?
I think I wish I would have invested more time in them, because I feel like a lot of times we all just separate and do our own thing. Like my sister had her friend, she did her own thing, my brother the same thing. I feel like if I maybe would have put myself out there more and offered my help, even because they're both older than me. So a lot of the times they were like few steps ahead of me in life. For instance, like when my sister was busy in college and she couldn't, she didn't have a lot of time to do something, like even making her lunch or helping her with something like that, or even my brother as well, or just being available for them to talk to me. Like, not sometimes you don't want to talk to your siblings, but I'm like, even if they knew, hey, I'm here if you want to talk, and it's going to stay between us, we're going to have that bond. I feel like I wish I would have done that more. I feel like now that we're adults, I feel like that's the relationship that we have now, but I wish I would have started earlier.
Yeah. How about you?
It's about to get real.
All right.
We're okay.
We like this.
Okay.
Make it real.
So, 1 John chapter 4, verse 20, 21. And that's the verse we're talking about. If a man say, I love God, and hateth his brother, he is a liar. For he that loveth not his brother whom he hath seen, how can he love God whom he hath not seen? 21. And this commandment have we from him, that he who loveth God love his brother also. So my answer to your question, and I didn't think, as I was reading the question and I really, really, really thought about it, us as siblings, I don't know, at least this was the case with me, maybe not with Miss Rachel, but there you have a way of understanding your siblings more than your parents will. I feel like maybe what your brother or sister might not go to your parents and tell them or ask them, hey, what do you think about this? They'll come to you because you're the closest thing they have to a friend, especially at home. And that's what my sister was for me, and that's what I was for my sister as well. We were best friends. We went to each other for everything. We would ask, we'd talk and just hang out and things like that. So me thinking on that question, spiritually, even though we were best friends and we were always there for each other and stuff, like I wish I was there for her more spiritually. Being the older brother, and honestly, I know there's a lot of teens out there. They're probably the younger sibling or in the middle or whatever it is. I mean, you don't have to be the oldest one in order to guide your sibling spiritually. Like if you feel that need or you feel like you can take that charge, I think you can help your siblings and guide them in that way. I think that's the best way you can help each other out, honestly, because it's like, really, why would you want to be the one to succeed, I guess you can say, spiritually? Like, you're going to remain in church all your life, but see your brother, your sister, the closest thing to you, not be in church anymore, or not being able to, have that relationship that they have with God, or how you guys used to go to church together and stuff like that. Like, you lose that, and for you to lose that, it's kind of painful to see, and so that's what I look back on, and I wish that maybe I could have guided or done something differently spiritually in order to guide my sister or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I feel like I'm the same way as you, because my brother and I had a really good relationship. My sister was the one that was, the outcast. She's the older.
You see, it's true. It happened.
Yeah, it's me and then my brother. But my brother and I are a year apart. My sister and I are 2 years apart. So my brother and my sister are 3 years apart. And so it was me and my brother, and then my sister did her thing. Obviously, she's the girl, we're the guys. So we obviously matched much better than my sister and I. But I think, like, we had a good relationship. Even when she went to college, I went to the military. And as soon as I went to the military, one of the first things I did the first Christmas was my present to my sister was I got her first cell phone in college, and I paid for it for 3 years because she only made 40. She paid for her college for 5 years to get a 4-year degree, and she only got $40 a month to spend from her job. So it was very difficult for her to communicate or whatever. So I did nice things to my sister, but I feel like we never really spiritually connected. Like, even now, my brother and my sister are really good Christians. They're really good family people, but they are not like me that enjoys the ministry and wanted to be in the ministry or whatever. They go to church and they do what Christians should do, but they're not. I don't know why I was more drawn to the ministry, or why that was more in my calling than theirs. And I feel like the one thing I would have changed, or at least I think I would have done different, I wanted to do different, is just be more spiritual with my brother and my sister. Like, hey, this is what I read today. What did you read today? Just like even that simple. Like, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You know, like, what is the deepest, truth that you found today?
More of a spiritual encouragement.
Yeah.
Because they hear it every day going to church, your parents,
Mhm.
other people like
Yeah.
that. And like to hear it again, oh, my brother's going to do the same thing, or, something like that.
Yeah.
But
And I feel like I could have done that better for my family, for my brother and sister. So before we end, let's talk about what is the one verse that you think the teens could remember that will help them deal with their brothers and their sisters. You took my verse, which was if you say you love God but you hate your brother, then you're a liar, because how can you love God whom you have not seen, and if you don't love the brother that you have seen? So if you were asking me, teens, what verse do you need to remember that verse? The reference is what?
1 John 6, let me just go back
just
to
check it, because I forgot. I didn't write it down too, but it's a...
Yeah, 1 John chapter 4, verses 20 and 21.
Yeah, 1 John 4, 20 and 21. Love your brother because you say you love God. And how do you know that you love God? Because you love your brother or your sister in that case. What verse do you have for teens?
That was kind of my verse.
That was
too.
your verse?
Yeah.
Good. We're thinking the same.
Unless you want me to quote
No, it's good.
something else.
No, it's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
John 3:16.
Rachel, what verse do you have?
I have Genesis 50, 19 through 21. And it's the words of Joseph at the very end of his life, and he's talking to his brothers. And for those of you who don't know, Joseph was the youngest of 12 brothers, and he came from an extremely dysfunctional family. If you think you have a dysfunctional family, trust me, probably his was worse.
4 mothers, 12 brothers and sisters.
Yeah,
All ranging
his
from 50
brothers
to
were
12.
like sleeping around with, like, his dad's
Concubines.
Yeah,
and
just-
it's weird.
And to top it all off, they hated Joseph, the youngest brother. Maybe you can relate because you were the youngest. And they sold him into slavery. And then they told
Second
the
to
dad.
youngest, because Benjamin was the youngest, but whatever.
He was the second to youngest, but he was at the very end of the 12. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Second to youngest. Anyways, he was sold in slavery, and then the brothers told the dad he got ate by a wild beast. Like, here's his coat. It's full of blood. He's dead.
He died.
And, I mean, Joseph could have gotten bitter. He could have hated his brothers and his entire family. But he chose to forgive, and he chose to just keep honoring God. And part of, in Ephesians, our text that we're reading from at the beginning of this, Ephesians 4, 25 through 32, it says, even as Christ, at the very, very end, it says, forgiving others even as Christ has forgiven you. I think it's in verse 32, right?
Correct.
Yeah, we read that one?
Correct.
Yeah, and but Joseph forgave his brothers, and he loved his brothers. And it's not because his brothers were good people, or his siblings. They were all brothers, but his siblings were good people. But it's because Joseph loved the Lord, and he wanted to have a right relationship with God. So in order to do that, he continued to love his brothers, and he did that by not hating them. So he was sold into slavery, but even as he was unjustly, cast out by his family, and he became a slave, and he ended up going to prison unjustly as well for something he was accused of doing that he didn't. He still kept a right heart with God, and God blessed him for that. And at the end of his life, I guess I'll do a really quick recap for those of you who don't know this story, but Joseph ends up becoming second in command over the nation of Egypt, which is like the biggest and best nation in the world at that time. So he's basically like, you could say he's like the vice president of the United States of America. He's like the most powerful man, and the entire world is in a famine, but God uses him to supply food for the whole world to Joseph. And his brothers end up coming to Egypt and asking Joseph, or the second in command, Pharaoh, for food. And they don't realize that Joseph is their brother. They have no idea. They think he's dead. And Joseph ends up supplying all the food for his family, and he tells his brothers, tell Dad I'm alive, bring your wives, bring their children, come to Egypt. And essentially he ends up saving his entire family because his maturity, and he's able to forgive his brothers, and God is able to use him to literally change their family tree. So, I don't know, just imagine if you're in another country and then your brother, who you were horrible to, like way worse than just tripping him with a backpack home from school. I mean, you sold him into slavery, right? And this is what Joseph said in Genesis chapter 50, verses 19 through 21. And it's one of my favorite stories in the Bible. It says, Joseph said unto them, Fear not, for am I in the place of God? As for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring it to pass as it is this day, to save much people alive. Now therefore fear you not, I will nourish you and your little ones. And he comforted them and spake kindly unto them. So here's a man that God used to be a blessing to his family, to his own brothers. He didn't have any sisters, even though they treated him horribly. So he's just a good example of somebody who can forgive and be loving to his family, even though they weren't a godly family, they weren't a good family. But because of Joseph's love and obedience to God, he was able to be a blessing to his family, his siblings.
Joseph has one sister, but nobody really talks about it. It's only once or twice in the Bible.
Yeah.
But
Dina, right?
Dina.
That's why I have you. You can fact check me.
Yeah, anytime. But I've always say his brother, never say his sister, but he has one sister.
Who's
Anyways.
his sister?
Dina.
Dinah.
Dina.
Oh, yeah, the one who went exploring, right?
Yeah,
She
and
left
then,
her brothers and
yeah,
went
and then the king's son grabbed her.
And then they
married
lied
her.
and killed all the brothers.
Correct,
Yeah. Okay, so he had a sister, but
sister.
he had 11 brothers, right?
Yeah, 12.
He was the 12th.
He was the 11th. Benjamin was the 12th.
But I mean, he had 11 brothers, plus him would be 12, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyways,
Yes.
it's not an important
basic math.
conversation.
Yeah. Sure. All right, Priscilla, what's the verse that they have to remember about dealing with siblings?
Okay, well, something that helped me, right, because I've had countless leftovers eaten and had to give up the rights to the remote and shotgun,
Oh, that's tough.
So it's Romans 12:10 that says, "Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love, in honor, preferring one another." And I mean, if you want the answer to all your problems, is put your siblings first. And that is a very humbling thought.
Sure is.
And it's hard because of your pride, because you want to be the first to like watch whatever you want on TV, or you want first dibs on whatever it is that your family's doing. But I mean, even if I did bring my leftovers and just gave them to my brother instead of just me like keeping them for myself, I probably wouldn't have gotten angry.
True.
You know? So there's a lot of ways that you can avoid fights, and it's just putting your siblings first.
Amen. Like that.
Easier said than done, right?
Yeah,
Sure
it
is.
is. It is.
Learn to hide your food better.
Yeah.
Or that, true.
So it wouldn't give you a
They'll
reason to
find
be
it.
upset.
They'll find the
Yeah.
snack drawer.
Oh, it's over there.
True.
He didn't like the
Yeah.
bag of frozen carrots or something, so
Yeah.
they don't find
Nobody
it.
sees it.
That's where you're supposed to add like
That's
your
a
ice
good
cream,
one.
right, from your
Yeah.
kids. And
That's
a bag
true.
of frozen vegetables.
All right, teens. Hopefully you guys enjoyed and learned something. I know this is not a session that you really wanted to hear, but it's important, and you will be glad you did something about it now. And looking back when you're 25, 30, you're gonna be glad you have a good relationship with your brothers and your sisters.
True. I've heard.
When your brothers and sisters are doing lessons for teens and they're telling stories about you,
True.
how do you want stories to be told
That's
about
right.
you?
One of my professors once said that how you treat your siblings is how you will eventually treat your kids.
Ooh.
So that's kind of a scary thought.
Wow, that's true.
What's the next lesson?
The next lesson, it's relationship with your authority or your pastor.
Your pastor.
Your pastor, relationship with your pastor. All right, have a good one. Bye.
Bye.